Welcome back to the Fit Dad Club podcast. My name is Travis Jones. I'm here with Jason Barrett, and today we're going to talk about how to lose the dad bod without giving up burgers, beers, or the family time. Now, Jace, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing well. We're dealing with some toddler tantrums. So, I mean, look, maybe I could like to give up the screaming family time. That would be nice. But I would only like to trade it for more peaceful and fun family time. But otherwise, then, I'm doing good, and I'm looking forward to helping some dads create some balance and simplicity in their plans.
And before we get started today, mates, I just want to give everyone a bit of notice. We are running a free 14-day challenge for dads. So over the 14 days, we'll help you with your nutrition, training, mindset. So basically our meals, mindset, and movement protocols over 14 days will kick you into gear. It is starting in a week's time. So I want you to go over to our Instagram, link in the bio, click it, register, get involved because we want to help change your life. And it is a free 14-day challenge to give you a great kickstart. So that is the thing that we're plugging at the moment for you to go and do. We give you information, but we also want to give you more information over 14 days and help you for free to actually start to kickstart some sustainable changes. And that's essentially a big thing. What we're going to talk about today is, if you're tired of quick fixes, if you're tired of overly restrictive diets, you're tired of like workouts designed by people with all the free time in the world, then this episode is for you. We want to explain flexible dieting or what we call freedom tracking. And I think that's a big thing for us because we want freedom with our food. We want to understand some realistic goal setting and sustainable fat loss for busy dads. And I think that is the big thing that I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there's a lot of convoluted stuff. As you said, everything out there is designed for a 20-something-year-old with, 2 hours in the evening to go to the gym, and then they come home and they can take all the time they want to rest and relax. But it's like dads don't have that. A lot of the dads we talk to, they're working long hours. They're coming home. They're doing stuff with their families. They've got commitments. They've got a bunch of shit on, and they need shit to be simple. Right? And they need things to be a little bit more focused. And if you're a dad who's like that, then obviously this episode is for you. So looking forward to getting stuck into making things a little bit easy.
Now, all these changes are what the changes we use with our clients, right? We help them start small and become realistic with what they can do. We give them our win the day protocol. And as they start winning the day, they get more motivation and then they start doing more and they keep increasing their intensity in their workouts. They have a higher nutrition IQ so they can become more elaborate with their meal choices and their motivation just keeps going up. And I think, everyone starts at a different point. And I was reflecting back on one of my clients, Brad, and literally he needed to lose over 25 kilos. And, we started small. We started with like 8,000 steps a day and just body weight training for 10 minutes a day. That's all we started with. And we created him a calorie deficit. So all we did was tracked calories. So the food, how many times his hand went to his mouth and what was on that fork. That's what we tracked. We didn't worry about protein or fats or carbohydrates. We want to create it simple. We want to make it to be winning for him. And, he hit his deficit. He, basically tracked his steps every single day. We made sure he had food in his diet that he still loved. And he loved an ice cream. So we're like, let's have paddle pops. And he had a paddle pop every single day. And, whether it be a rainbow one or a chocolate one, like it was his finish of the day as a bit of a treat per se inside his calories that allowed him to stay focused with his meal plan. He really looked forward to that paddle pop. We worked out how to fit beer, like a couple of burgers throughout the week, like chicken burger and also beef burger, how to create them that are calorie and macro friendly to fit in his diet. And he had pizza once a week as well. So when we're focusing on something like that and sustainable plan, he started to lose 1% of his body weight every single week. So he was averaging about 1.2 kilos every single week lost. And he lost that sort of first 10 kilos. And once he did that, all we did was just make small changes. He hit a plateau. We increased his steps by 2,000 a day. We added dumbbell workouts instead of just the bodyweight workouts, which increased his intensity. And over the next 8 weeks, he lost another 10 kilos. And when we look at it, he lost a total of 20 kilos over 24 weeks. So we did some calorie cycling. We managed the times out that he had with his family and friends. And I think the biggest thing I wanted to say with that, I reflect over all of our clients, and so many of them have similar stories that, we start small and we start simple with accountability. We start winning the day. Once we start winning the day, we increase complexity a little bit. So then you keep pushing harder and your motivation always stays high because one, you have accountability, and two, you feel like it's realistic for you. And three, you actually get results because consistency over time is the thing that actually gets results.
Yeah, man, I think a big thing about our approach with a lot of our clients and the reasons why it works so well is because we don't try and do quick fixes, right? And that's a big thing. This is number one for a lot of dads. Quick fixes do not work. The extreme diets and the sort of the real far end of the spectrum that a lot of people go on, think things like your carnivore, your keto, your vegan, anything that's way like overly restrictive, it's going to end up with a really negative impact on your health. It's going to end up with a really negative impact on your relationship with food a lot of the times. You're cutting out entire food groups. You're doing really severe diets like 1,000 calories a day or, man shakes and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a shake, but unless you plan on doing that for the rest of your life, it's not going to be sustainable, right? It is essentially a bit of a crash diet. It creates a short-term like dopamine hit. It's like, oh, keto, people tell me all the time, oh, keto really worked for me. I was like, well, you put the weight back on. So did it work for you? But when I did it, I lost 10 kilos. So yeah, but you put that 10 kilos fucking on. Again, it's not about, oh, I just dropped the weight. It's about you dropped the weight and you kept it off and you had a strategy and the knowledge to maintain it. Whereas, oh, it works really well, I just can't sustain it. No. If it works really well, but you can't sustain it, therefore it doesn't work very well.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it feels like you just constantly feel like you're in this cycle of like failure over and over again because like I try, I fail, and it just reinforces that negative stereotype of yourself.
I think a big thing is then you think you're the problem. No, I can't lose weight. Swift. Yeah, exactly. But it's not you that's the problem, right? It's the plan. The plan was the problem. And I think anything that you can't sustain long term, when we're increasing our nutrition IQ, we're understanding calories, we're understanding what we can eat, and then it's not the before and after. It's what's the after photo after the after photo. If you maintained the weight loss and then you're managing within like 3 kilos up and down, after you've lost the weight and you feel fantastic and you're gaining strength and it's a part of your life. It wasn't a body transformation. It was a life transformation, right? You transformed your life for the rest of your life. And I think that's probably the big thing. If we can talk about what we do, it's more of a life transformation than a body transformation because we want you to have a better quality of life the rest of your life for your family. And I think, when we demonize any type of food group, we think that food group was the problem. Oh, I cut out carbs and I lost weight. Or I went keto and I lost weight. So I didn't eat all these carbs. So therefore, I can't eat carbs anymore because that's when I put weight back on. When in reality, the carbs were not the problem. It was the amount of food that was the problem. And by cutting out carbohydrates, you cut out 30% of the food that you would eat, like a 30% of the food groups. There's 3 macronutrients. One is carbohydrates. You cut one out. Of course, you got into a calorie deficit. Now, all these diets do work, right? So carnivore, keto, low carb, they all work because they force a calorie deficit. So if you actually learn what a calorie deficit is and how to track your calories and then also how to hit your protein goal, I think those 2 things, which is our freedom tracking protocol inside our flexible dieting approach, like it gives you a confidence and it gives you self-belief. And I think it's the opposite, right? I think, when we fail on a plan, it increases self-doubt and makes you feel this feeling of despair because you're like, I am the problem. But if you educate yourself, then you're like, oh, I know what the problem was. It was just I wasn't moving enough and I was eating too much. So if I track my calories and I can manage my calorie deficit and I have a higher protein meal, it's going to keep me fuller for longer, which means I'm not hungry all the time. And then I keep losing weight. Oh, wow. I'm not the problem. My diet was the problem and I believe in myself again. And this is a plan I can actually sustain. I think there's a big difference. And I think that's as we bridge into the second part of this podcast right now. The point 2 is like flexible dieting and why it works because you learn that carbs aren't the enemy.
Yeah, we like to call it freedom tracking for a reason because it gives you the freedom. And now this isn't the freedom to eat everything in sight and lose weight. Like it's not like you're on a Ozempic and you can just you eat until you're full because you only can eat 100 grams at a time and then you're like, oh cool, I'm all good. Which to be honest, like those drugs and stuff, they're for people who have outrageous appetites based on like genetics and physiology and that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're a great help. But if you're not going down that path, one of the big things that you can do is start to incorporate foods that you do enjoy. Now, when it comes to freedom is about the freedom to choose. The freedom to choose, do I want this or do I not? Not, I can't have that. It's not about putting things off limits. It's like, all right, you've got a pathway. We've got a pizza night tonight. How can I make pizza work in my diet? Rather than being like, oh no, I'm going to be nervous and I'm not going to be able to do any social situations. I'm going to have to pack my chicken and broccoli or my, friggin' rind of pork belly if I'm on keto or some shit like that, and gnaw on that while everyone else is eating pizza. The reason why the freedom tracking approach works is it gives you the initiative and it gives you the choice. Now, that obviously comes with a lot of time and a lot of education around, well, what is in food? How much pizza can I have and still feel satisfied and not feel like, I only had 2 pieces because each slice of pizza is like 250 calories. So I only had 2 slices and now I feel really hungry at the end of the night. It's like, cool, well, those are the trade-offs that you then make. A big thing for me is understanding that, carbs are not the enemy, fats are not the enemy, even though they're a bit higher calorie. It's all about that sort of total calorie count. You can have bread, you can have rice, you can have pizza, you can have whatever, as long as you manage your overall intake, right? And the best way to think about it is it's like a budget. You've got a daily allocation, you've got a daily budget, and you can spend it however you want. And there are some things that are worth, spending money on. It's like, that's going to be that's going to be better bang for buck than other things. There's going to be some things that are way overpriced, right? Overpriced things are the high calorie dense things. It's like, you can afford them. You can afford to go out, if you're going to get some champagne, you can get some Verve or you can get some, some Brown Brothers or whatever. It's like, at the end of the day, both champagne, one of them is going to be a little bit more budget friendly than the other. It might not taste as good. It might not give you the same experience. And there are some days where you might want to splurge on the Verve, right? And just eat less around it because then you'll get drunk faster. But you'll and then you need less of it. It's win-win. But that level of management in terms of your budget, those kind of skills apply to your calories. You've got a daily budget and you need to understand where are you allocating them, where you're getting the best bang for buck. And this is why people, will do default things like they'll cut out all carbs because carbs tend to add a lot of calories without adding too much fullness. So they're, not the best from a budget perspective. But fats do the same sort of thing. They add a lot of calories. So it's like, how do I increase my protein intake? Protein is one of those things that makes your dollar stretch a bit further, and it gives you the ability to feel a bit more full, maintain muscle mass, all of the good things that go with that. But the core principle around sort of this freedom tracking as part of flexible dieting is you get to choose how you spend it. I had a client who was struggling with, he worked at a winery, like a vineyard, and he would do like tastings and he would do like go out to lunches, and he very much in like the restaurant industry. So it's like, cool. And this kind of leads into the next point as well. For us, we looked at doing lower calories throughout the week. And then on the weekends when he had all these social and work engagements where he was going out to lunch and he was out of control of his meals, we gave him a bigger calorie budget. Right? So we had lower spending days and higher spending days. And that's one of the beautiful things about this method is that you can sort of mix and match it as you need to based on your constraints.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing is if you don't know how to balance a budget, then I think we can do a separate podcast on your financial planning. But let's just say you do have an understanding that you make a certain amount per week, and then if you spend a certain amount, you want to spend under the amount you make, and then you'll have savings. If you spend over, then you could go into debt and then lose your items because they have been taken off you. But let's just not pretend you're the American economy and keep printing money. But you actually have to stay within your budget. So if we look at this, you have 14,000 calories a week. Let's just say that. And if you are you're having a wedding this Friday night and you want to spend 3,000 calories, instead of spending an even 2,000 calories every single day to hit the 14,000 calories a week, you bump it up 3,000 calories. And we just know that we have to take the 1,000 calories across the rest of the week. And it's really simple, right? It could be you take 200 calories a day off Monday to Friday and you have 3,000 on the Saturday and you go back to 2,000 on the Sunday. And all of a sudden you still balanced your 14,000 calorie budget. And that's literally how it is. It's calorie cycling. You're cycling your calories through the week to allow for lifestyle, to allow for family, to allow for occasions. So you're not the guy sitting in the corner who is miserable. And I think that's the big thing about flexible dieting. And also when we have the power over our weekly calorie plan, it takes misery out of diet culture and it gives you control and freedom back to feel like you're living your life the way you want to live it while still achieving the results that you want to achieve. And I think it's empowering. And that's what we want. We want to have an empowering meal plan, an empowering approach to this fat loss rather than a disempowering one where you're feeling constant negativity around diet culture, where you feel like, I don't want to be on a diet because this is too hard and I feel like I'm missing out. There's a constant FOMO approach to it. And I think we don't want that at all. We want to say, no, you can have some stuff, but you can't have everything, because that's what led us here. But you just need to have, to being overweight. But you just have the power to have some of the stuff, so you have more control on your intake and more control of your destiny. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it comes back to education a lot as well. And one big thing, we've just had the Christmas New Year period. And one of the big things for my guys, I told them, is like, let's have a look at what does this week look like for you and what do you want it to be? Are you happy to just maintain and not progress, let's say, for over these 2 weeks? Is that a trade-off that you are willing to make, to be 2 weeks behind in your progress, to have a little bit more calories, have a little bit more freedom during this time? Is that a trade-off you're willing to make? Awesome. Cool, let's do it. Do you want to progress? Awesome, then this is the changes we would need to make. Are you happy to YOLO and you don't mind if you put on a couple of kilos and then you'll come back into it and you're just going to sort of let loose? Awesome. Like, it's all about choice. And as we've talked about so many times, it's all about freedom and it's all about you choosing. And as Trey's saying, it's like eliminating the guilt and making fat loss about your life, because it's not about those little short-term things. It's about the long-term trend, because this 2 weeks isn't going to make a big deal by the end of the year. That 1-2 weeks isn't going to mean shit.
Yeah, man. I think the big thing with this as well, like I was away in December, as we talked about, and I didn't want to follow a diet or anything like that. Like, I was in Europe, I was enjoying the foods I wanted to enjoy. And now with that, I ended up putting on, I think, about 3.5 kilos over the month of December. I was eating croissants, and I was having beer and wine, and I was living my best life.
You're in Europe. I was enjoying go to Europe and not eat the local croissants.
Exactly, right? So, but I knew when I got back, I jumped on the scales. It's like, okay, well, I was actually 5 kilos up, and I knew a bunch of that was water weight from the plane. I hopped on it a couple of days later. I was 3.5 kilos up. All I did was just put myself on a 500 calorie deficit a day. I know that every 3,500 calorie deficit, I lose half a kilo. So I knew that it's going to be a 6-ish week diet that's not too aggressive. And I was back to having abs and feeling great. Now I'm 2 weeks into it. I've lost a kilo. I feel good and I'm going forward. And I think it's what it does when we talk about sustainability. Education goes, okay, well, all I have to do, if I can stay within 3-4 kilos of my goal when I hit it, I know that if I do, YOLO out and have a vacation and go, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy myself with my family, then it only takes me over 6 weeks to get back on track. And I think that's a really empowering thing as well.
Yeah, completely. It's just about taking control of your destiny, right? Like you being the one to choose what you want to do and understanding the consequences, not just, like I said, from some 20-something-year-old going, cool, follow my plan, otherwise you're shit. So no, we can figure out and we can help empower you and help you understand what are the consequences of the various choices that I make. And you've got to be willing to make that choice and willing to learn it. If you're not willing to show up and actually learn, if you're just like, oh, just fucking give me a program to follow and tell me what not to eat, it's like, cool, working with us might not be for you, because we're not about just getting dad's results in the 10 weeks and then they go away. It's about us empowering you to know more about what you're putting in your mouth. And like, this is something that everyone should learn. It's like same thing as budgeting. Everyone should learn this shit. You've got to understand that this is your health and your life at the end of the day. Like, health is wealth. If you're not taking care of it, if you're not willing to invest, like the amount of time you've invested, I don't know, learning fucking rules of different sports and the backgrounds and names of all the run rate of this dude and how many wickets fucking Mitch Marsh has or whatever. I haven't watched cricket in a long time. I don't even know if he's still bowling. Is he bowler? Fuck, I don't remember.
No idea, mate.
Terrible. But all this kind of other stuff. And I'm guilty of this too. I've definitely got areas of my life where I'll invest a lot of knowledge and time. And it's like, well, could that knowledge and time have been better invested somewhere else for me? And for a lot of people, it's knowing more about your health, knowing more about what is in the food that you're putting in your mouth, instead of just taking advice from quacks on Instagram and YouTube. We might be up there in that circumstance for you, but hopefully we're educating a bit. One of the key things that we want to educate about, especially, and this has come up a couple of times, is carbs, right? Carbs is a big one. A lot of people have this carb fear, right? And there's this idea like, oh, carbohydrates aren't essential nutrients and all this kind of stuff. So if your body and your brain has the choice between using fats and proteins and using carbs, it'll choose carbs every single time. Sometimes it'll even convert fats into carbs to use because it likes using carbs so much. So carbohydrates are not the energy. So many guys come to us like, oh, I've started cutting out breads and it's been really good and I've managed it. It's like, cool. Are you willing to do that for the rest of your life? If not, it's not sustainable. But if it's something you're like, cool, I cut it out, I feel good, I'm happy to leave this, that's up to you. But carbohydrates are essential for energy. They're essential for your workouts, if you're going to be doing any kind of physical activity or training, mood regulation, sustainability, but also they're like the vessel for a lot of your your fiber as well. Like a lot of people struggle to get their fiber in. If you're not a huge a fibrous vegetable eater or a fruit eater, if you don't have carbs, you're missing out on a lot of the stuff that's going to help your bowels work properly, right? If you're going to be going super high fat and protein, your farts are going to be terrible, all those other things that affect your relationship. But carbohydrates are very, very important. And it's all about doing it right. Everyone thinks, oh, it's the carbs that cause this. It's like, well, no, you had a pizza. The pizza, most of your calories, like 50% of your calories from pizza are going to come from fat, right?
Yeah.
And the carbs are going to be there too. But this is why I talk about not fucking layering carbs on carbs on carbs and fats on fats on fats. It's not that there's any one thing that's the enemy. It's about, and it was the pasta that did it. No, it was the fucking creamy sauce and bits of bacon that you put throughout it and the cheese that you smothered on top. That might have had the issue, right? Like you would have had a bowl of just plain pasta with nothing on it. You wouldn't overeat that. Just like you wouldn't overeat a bowl of creamy sauce and cheese and bacon. Actually, to be honest, fucking knowing some people, you might. So let's see where the real culprits are. It's not carbohydrates.
No, exactly. And yes, you can eat carbs after dark. Nothing changes once you go, the night moon comes out. You don't metabolize
it's not
food
like you're the
differently.
gremlin.
No.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you eat the food. Like, it's just the calories. Make sure you hit your calories and your protein. I think that's the biggest thing. When we look at what sustainability looks like in the real world, it's creating a plan that you enjoy. I think it's losing 1% of total body weight per week. And that's what we want to try and set up our calories around. So you burn a certain amount of calories on a daily basis. You can go to tdee.net and you can work out what your calories somewhat should be. You can put yourself into a 500 calorie deficit a day, or you can join our 14-day challenge and we can help you out with all that for you. But you work out your 500 calorie deficit, then you start tracking it in some form of app. I think we want to eat 80% of foods from like whole foods, whereas like we want to eat, fruits and vegetables and steaks and mince and chicken. We want to have carb sources. We want to have potatoes. We want to have some rices, we want to have 80% of our whole foods, and it gives us 20% of our calories every day. If you're eating 2,000 calories, give you 200 calories a day where you can have flexibility of like, hey, I'm going to have a couple of paddle pops, or I'm going to have some stuff I really enjoy, or 20% of your week when we look at it. So it's like, maybe you do have that pizza and you can sort of calorie cycle and understanding what that looks like. And I think, I want you to think about it. If I gave you a diet where you felt full, you enjoyed every night, you went home, you could eat with the family, you knew what you had to eat for lunch each day. It might be a couple of big sandwiches, okay, because that's what a lot of my guys do. They have sandwiches for lunch, or they'll have meal prep some fried rice, or they'll meal prep some spaghetti. In the mornings, they'll have like a shake because it's easy for them to get on the go, and they'll have like a massive yogurt bowl after dinner. So it's like yogurt, some protein, some frozen berries. They stir that around. It tastes really good. And, if they want to have a beer, they have a beer. Like, I think they just fit it into their calories. So if you look at it, if you go out and you have an event coming up, you don't have to sit in the corner. You can actually still focus and enjoy yourself when we calorie cycle. If that sounds like a sustainable plan, and we look at it, and it's all you have to do is work out for like 28 minutes a day, like focus 2% of your day on this, and that can even involve some of your steps. Like, if that's all you have to do, it's about consistency. And again, guys, it's never about perfection. It's about being consistent. I think that's the biggest thing, and a plan that you can follow for months and years on end. And that's what creates the life transformation, and not just the body transformation, which then you have to do every year because you keep gaining fat back again. I think the sustainability, if that's what it sounds like and that sounds good to you, well, that's the plan you need to do.
100%. If you're not willing to do it for months and years, then it's not a sustainable plan. So you've got to find the way that works. Cutting out and restricting all these things doesn't work. But just picture, over the course of of summers being able to have barbecues, have mates over, have a beer while you sit there and not feel the guilt, not feel the pressure of, oh fuck, I told everyone I was on a fat loss thing and they're going to come and tell me. It's like, no, I know that I can have 2 of these because I've already tracked them, and I can have my, my steak that I've got here cooked. I'm going to cut it up and chuck it in a sandwich. Oh my God, bread. You shouldn't be eating bread. Fucking shut up, Robbo. You don't know what you're talking about, right? You're sitting there 30 kilos overweight. Don't try and tell me what to do. Sorry to all the Robbos out there. I'm sure not all of them are 30 kilos overweight, but it's about consistency. It's about, giving yourself permission to stop chasing that high of I dropped 5 kilos because I cut out all carbs, and start chasing the high of sustainably and consistently getting better to the point where in 6 months' time, your kids look at you and they go, Dad, you're looking really good. Holy shit. Oh, Dad, you're keeping up with me. Wow, Dad, you're faster than me now, right? Like all of these things, I'm always faster than Immy, but it depends on how dangerous the room is. Then she's pretty fucking fast. But it's all about you starting to build a plan that fits your life, not trying to fit your life around a plan. And I think that's the big thing that we do as the Fit Dads Club.
Exactly. And guys, if you do want that kickstart with our free 14-day Fit Dad Challenge, then go to our Instagram. There's a link in the bio. You can click it. You can register. You can join. We start next week. It's going to give you a great kickstart, give you some understanding about workouts, nutrition, give us motivating you every single day with accountability and pushing you in the right direction. If you want to leave a review on the podcast, review it, rate it, send it to a friend. Get some of your friends on the 14-day challenge with you as well, right? Strength in numbers, guys. Actually, we should support more dads supporting more dads at the end of the day. Like, we say we're in a society where we feel like we're alone. We can also change that. Like, get around people, get them on this challenge together and support them, and say you need support. So do it with me. So go to our link in our bio, register for the challenge. And guys, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Fit Dad Club podcast.
Peace out.
See you guys.